With us now, Democratic strategist, former White House Director of Message Planning Megan Hayes, and former Chief of Staff to Vice President Mike Pence, Marc Short. And Marc, I got to say, there are all kinds of Republican senators coming out extremely critical of this. Axios is supporting the Treasury Secretary. Scott Bessent isn't happy. Jeanine Pirro, who's the U.S. Attorney for D.C., who's involved with the subpoena, sort of issued a tweet last night, kind of backing off, saying, I'm just asking questions here. No one said indictment. This seems to be going well so far.
It clearly is a disaster, and I think you've even seen the president begin to pivot and claim he had no responsibility for this. But, you know, John, I think one of the ironies is that I was in the Oval Office in the first administration when the president was considering between John Taylor, Kevin Warsh, and Jerome Powell in that decision. And he's the one that chose Jerome Powell because there were assurances from his Treasury Secretary that Powell would keep rates lower, and that's what he wanted. And the irony is that here we are years later, he's upset that he feels like Powell hasn't lowered rates even further. But this is a ham-handed fiasco, and I would imagine that I think the reaction from Capitol Hill has been pretty swift and pretty clear, and I think you'll see the president pivot away from this.
You know, it's interesting, Megan, because the Wall Street Journal had a piece which maybe puts this in context. They have a headline suggesting that President Trump is unhappy with Attorney General Pam Bondi. Just one line from that. President Trump has complained to aides repeatedly in recent weeks about Attorney General Pam Bondi, describing her as weak and an ineffective enforcer of his agenda. Inside this article, it suggests one of the things he's unhappy about is she hasn't been investigating the people or pushing the investigations that he wants to see, and the likes of James Comey and Letitia James. And it was maybe in that environment that word came down of all this investigating Jerome Powell. What do you think of the idea of this possible rift between the president and the attorney general?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's trying to do everything she can to keep him happy and to keep him satisfied in investigating these people. But the problem is you have a lot of career people who work at the DOJ who are used to it being an independent arm in the administration and not being politicized or weaponized against their political enemies. So they're refusing to prosecute and to investigate some of these things that are clearly political and just at Trump's behest. So she has a really hard job here because she has people who aren't doing what she wants them to do because they don't think it's legal, and then she has to satisfy Trump. So I understand why Trump's upset with her, and I would venture to guess that her time is limited.
So there are 1.5 million things. This is just one of them going on in the world. But the American people seem to be saying they care about is prices and jobs and the economy here at home. And the White House, at least in theory, is aware of that, Marc Short. The president going out to Detroit to give a speech to the Detroit Economic Club today. And one of the things he's been talking about publicly is putting a cap on credit card interest rates, a 10% cap. What do you think of that proposal? Why is Marc Short smiling at this?
I mean, this is like what people call the horseshoe theory, where the populist left and the populist right come back together. I mean, this is directly a playbook out of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders' economic theory. And it's not just limited to this crazy idea the government's going to cap credit cards, which, of course, would hurt most of the very people they claim they're trying to help, because those people with struggling credit are not going to get any credit at all. But it follows plans to say we're going to ban private equity from purchasing homes, or from saying we're going to ban defense contractors from giving out dividends, or saying we're going to have all these new state-owned enterprises, and even lastly saying that for oil companies in Venezuela, perhaps even consider state-owned enterprises there to force them to go in and explore for oil. So this seems to be like in the last week or two, the administration, as opposed to sticking with their first administration policies that were deregulatory, low taxes, that were so successful, seem to be embracing the Sanders-Warren wing of the Democrat Party and the policies they're putting forward.
Megan, Marc suggests some kind of hypothetical embracing of Elizabeth Warren. The president called Elizabeth Warren yesterday. They talked about this. Is this a proposal that Democrats can and, in your mind, should get behind?
I mean, I think that this is one of those things where he's throwing something out to make it look like it's actually going to be beneficial to working class and the middle class people. But to Marc's point, it actually just decreases people's ability to use credit. And when they can't afford groceries and gas and they're having to put that on their credit cards, that it's going to impact them significantly. So instead of rolling back some of the Consumer Protection Board and trying to get rid of that, and some of the Biden administration policies of $8 fees and capping some of those things, they're just doing these one-off things that don't make a lot of sense for the economy. How about you roll back your tariffs so people can actually afford their goods again and not have to put them on credit cards, so we wouldn't be in this situation?
I can't believe Marc Short and Megan Hayes seeming to agree on this. I've just got to rethink my views on political
Trump's
lines.
going to make free traders out of Democrats before this is all done.
You're going to be the last free trade, sort of pro-business Republican out there, Marc Short. Good to see you this morning, John. Both of you. Appreciate it.